Talofa lava, my name is Monty Betham and I thank you for choosing Once a Warrior. My guest today just spent 2 years at the club, but in that time he really did make an impression on and off the field. Georgie Gatis, thanks for your time, brother. How are you?
Good, thanks, Monty. Good to be here.
What's keeping you busy these days, man?
I'm a prison officer in Townsville. I've sort of gone on a little bit of a journey employment-wise. I've got a beautiful 4.5-year-old boy, and Monty, to be honest, he's my pride and joy, and that's what keeps me going.
I suppose it's been a while since you remembered your days in the jumper here, so let's go back now and reminisce, Georgie.
Gatis for the line. They can't deny him. That's a Gatis. Gatis for the line. I reckon he's played at the football. Gatis is away. Gatis has got support. George Gatis. He's Johnny on the spot.
Came back to George Gatis. He gets the try and the win for the Warriors.
All right, mate. When you see that time in that jumper in the early 2000s, how was it for you?
Very happy time in my life, and I was living my rugby league dream every time I ran out onto the field, and really, really special for me. And I felt vindicated that I knew if I had the opportunity to play behind a really good forward pack, and one that has Steve Price and Ruben Wiki as your front rowers, I knew that it was going to be a hooker's paradise, and I enjoyed every second while I was there. I really did.
Yeah, absolutely. Because 2001 to 2003, you're at the Cows, okay. But that's the thing. In the next 2 years, you weren't playing NRL. So how on earth did you find yourself 2 years later in a Warriors jumper? Tell me the story.
Yeah, it was quite surreal. I'd given up on my NRL dream. I'd moved into our family business, and we'd expanded it. We'd done a lot of work in that space. I really had no further aspiration to play, and I made very good friends with Kevin Campion when he was at the Warriors, and he come to visit our new business. He come over the counter and more or less said, "Mate, what are you doing next year?" I said, "He goes, you looking fit?" I said, "Yeah, I'm still playing, but I'm all dressed up with nowhere to go." And he goes, "Oh, come play for the Warriors." And if you know Campo, he's a bit of a joker at times. I thought he was joking. I said, "Mate, I haven't played NRL for 3 years." He goes, "No, we need a hooker." I said, "Mate," I said, "don't muck around." He goes, "No, you got an email? Come over." And sure enough, I got an email. It was an offer to go over on an incentive deal. I think I got $10,000 to go over to New Zealand, and got match payments and the opportunity to play with some of the greats in the game, and I couldn't pass it back.
Well, that's a club great right there, and he was the assistant coach at the time. When he told you that it was an opportunity ahead, it must have been heaven.
Yeah, he threw me an opportunity, and he knew I was reliable and I guess fit the mould of what they wanted at the Warriors at that time, which was just someone who could give good service and lock up the middle. And I wasn't sure at the time if I was going to be up to it, but I just knew I just had to give it a crack. I was business partners with my father at the time, and I sort of said, "Dad, this is a rose, and what do you think?" And he goes, he wasn't too keen on the idea of me leaving, because we'd set up a bit of a monster of a business it wasn't a one-man operation. It was a big operation, particularly for a man close to retirement. And he said, one year, that's it. 1 year, that's it. I went over to New Zealand with the thing that I had 1 year to, get rugby league out of my system and give it my best crack. And so that's what I did.
The adjustments you had to make in terms of life in Auckland on the other side of the ditch, but also the training that was involved in it. What adjustments were made?
I think when I first went over, I was staying with Nathan Feen. His partner, Bell, was away at the time. I got there and I quickly realised I was way off the mark, fitness-wise. I quickly realised while I was over there that $10,000 was not going to go too far either. So um, I literally went over with that $10,000 per year paycheck and not much else in my bank. So I had to work pretty hard to earn my way into the side, and I also needed to find a part-time job as well. I remember going for a jog past the old Fish Pot Cafe at Mission Bay there, and they had a help wanted sign up, and I remember looking up, I went, this is a sign from God. That was, we brought up with a bit of work ethic, working in our family fish shop pretty much from the time we can walk to the time we could talk. So I ended up working there 3 or 4 nights a week during the pre-season. And once the match payments kicked in, that was the retirement of my New Zealand fish and chip making.
So when you got there in that moment, and when you realised you're off the pace, do you remember which moment it was and how it occurred in your head?
From the very first session I rocked up, we had a beep test, and I think the target I had to achieve was, the group I was in was 12.6. Got the beep test out, and I think I got 12.5 mine.
Yeah.
And I thought, I thought, wow, that's the best effort I've ever done on a beep. I was quite chuffed. And then we went out and we did fitness, and we did one of the most grueling fitness sessions I'd ever been involved in. And I remember sitting down at the end of that session, and they read out a few names, and I was part of those group, and that was all the people who had missed the beep test. And they said, right, use it back tomorrow, 5 o'clock before gym. So after one of the most grueling sessions I've ever done, the very next day we've gone and done the beep test, and I think I got 12.8. I found a way to get it done. One of the next fitness sessions we did was we had a timed run. Got to the end of the session. Again, we sat down in a little group, and they said, right, these guys missed their time for the mark, and they read out a list of names. And again, I was on it. And I remember Campo just pulling me to the side and said, mate, what are you doing? You're letting me down here. I'm giving you a crack. And, he just gave me a little prod. Again, I had to go back the next day, and we knocked it out. I knocked it out in time, and I don't think I missed another time.
Kevin Campion, you had a relationship with, and he's already putting the pressure on you. But Ivan Cleary, his first ever coaching gig, his head coach.
One of the very good features of Ivan Cleary is he makes you feel wanted, and he's not someone to fluff words. He just sat me down early and said, mate, I've got a lot of superstars over here who can do all the special things. I need a worker. I need someone who can give good service, take the right options, lock up the middle and defence, and that's what we got you here. And what I need is steady Eddie. He goes, I don't need gorgeous George. He goes, I don't need gorgeous George. I need steady Eddie. That steady Eddie was my strength, and the more I went away from that, the more bad juju that would come around very quickly. I think the times where I went back to Barter Card Cup was when I went away from that mindset. And sometimes, whether it was a video session or at training, where I've tried a little bit to go outside my box, he'd look at me and go, gorgeous George. And that's all he would need to say. Nice. And it was like a correction for me. I'd go, yeah. A couple of times where like at training, where I'm trying to learn new skills and improve myself. And I remember we'd come off the training paddock and he'd go, mate, yeah, I see you doing this. I don't really need you doing that. I said, yeah, I understand, but if I don't practice it at training, how am I going to improve on these skills if I don't practice here at training? And I think he developed an understanding for me, and likewise me for him. And he didn't have to say much to me. He likes that in players, people who listen, take in information, who do his game plan on the field and turn up and have a crack. And I think I ticked most of those boxes while I was there.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you think about that nine jumper and wanting to make it yours, when you had Feeney there, you had Lance O'Hare there, club legend, who's the only one who played in 2 grand finals. Geez, that's some competition. How do you compete with them but still be friends at the same time?
You compete with your mates in rugby league. There's no hard feelings or anything. Looking back now, I don't know if Feeney really expected me to play any time. Nathan Feen is supremely fit. He's he's got a huge engine. Just trying to keep up with him. You know, we had Lance there as well, who's a brilliant player wherever you played him. The perfect mould of football for mine. You know, fast, strong, incredibly gifted with skill. His versatility and his ability to put the team first is probably his greatest strength. You know, my thing was I was going to compete with everybody who played in my position, so that meant keep up with them or beat them at every session. So I just put the head down and just worked as hard as I could.
Now, every time you go and play to start a season, you want to be there in round one. You weren't quite there in round one. Your debut was round 3, but let's talk about round 1 and 2 because you got to experience something pretty special, and that's playing for the Auckland Vulcans. Your time in that jumper, man?
Yeah, look, I'm sort of from a background where I don't think of myself above anybody. I got to play a little bit in the Bartercard Cup. I quickly realised how lucky I was to be at the Warriors with the skill that was on show within that Bartercard Cup and playing at that level. You know, I wanted to do my job. I wanted to show to them I was invested in being there.
But then you got your boarding pass, your debut. It was round 3 against the Tigers down in Christchurch. Do you remember when you were told and how you were told and just that week in that game?
I remember Ives letting me know that I was going to get my chance, and I was so happy, but at the same time, self-doubt as well creeps in. I didn't want to give up my opportunity. I knew that this was going to be a very important step into playing some significant time at the Warriors. You know, I was just trying to soak everything in, and so much so that I think after the game, like I was taking pictures, and I just wanted to have all the memories of that. Big Ives, he sort of went, "What's with the pictures? Like, what's with the things? You're going to be here next week." And he just reassuring me that he reassured me straight away that I was part of his plans, and he just tried to keep. He was very good at keeping you level. I felt.
Well, Georgie, you were thrown a lifeline in the first year. You played 17 games, mate. You didn't look out of place at all. What are the memorable games for you that year in the jumper?
Playing against the Cowboys for the first time at home. I think we knocked them over that day as well. Was particularly satisfying. I remember that one of the trainers coming into the dressing room and he wanted to grab something for the Cowboys team, and I just sang him a little song. Take a look at me, I'm yesterday's hero. Just giving him a hard time.
2007, mate, I mean for you, every time you have a pre-season, you want to make sure you're there for round 1. That's a great indication you've had a good pre-season and then you're going to start the year strong. Not only were you there for round 1, but you had a spectacular game against the Eels. Memories of that?
What I do remember is the start of that season, I felt ready to go. I'd worked as hard as I'd ever had. The competition for spots was just enormous. Being part of the team each week, whether I was in the starting side or off the bench, it was a special.
Over all the years you played and you're sort of in and out, was this the time where you felt like you truly belonged? Because not only did you start round 1 and you become a permanent fixture, but the way you played was just sensational.
I remember that start to the season that I'd played some really good rounds, and I remember the disappointment of getting dropped back to the bench. Again, just stuck to my ethos of just working hard, and I found my way back into, I think, the starting side by mid to late year.
Let's talk about your game. What was your strengths? And how would you describe that way you played the game? Just
sound across the board. I wasn't overly flashy player, but my strengths, good service, just giving people a little bit of space out of dummy half, knowing when to give early ball, knowing when to take a few metres and take someone all the way to the line. But I think one of the best compliments that Ivan gave me was that you help a lot of players around you be better players, and I think that's through selection. I used to like to try and have a kick from time to time, which I don't think exactly fit the steady Eddie mould that Ivan wanted.
You had a licence to kick, man.
Oh, look, it was a very tentative licence. I can also put a correlation to going back to barter card when a few kicks go out in the full. So,
like you said, you had a tentative licence to kick, but as all good hookers do, you get that white line fever and you score, mate. You scored a few. What was it like scoring at Mount Smart? The memories?
Incredible. And I felt on game day I was always very well supported, and people would go out of their way to be incredibly nice to me while I was there. And I scored a try against Manly in a heritage jersey. That was a special try. Really enjoyed that one behind an enormous crowd. It was a huge atmosphere that day. I got another one over there against the Dragons that was pretty special too. Most of them were pretty close to the try line, just backing up, picking up scraps, and I don't think there's too many other grounds that provide the atmosphere that one does there. I remember just a venue that for some reason just brought the best out of me.
Graham Ravelli's another guy that was exceptional, but also the combination that you had with them. It seemed to be that you guys were in each other's pockets and you just knew what each other were going to do.
Yeah, I think that's part and parcel of playing a lot of football together in junior football. But part of football is understanding the strength of your teammates, and he knew that without hesitation, if I got a quick play of the ball, I would run, and he knew I was quite good at getting the ball away. I'd often try not to die off the football if I did run out of dummy half. So we developed a good combination.
Georgie, 2007 was a return to the finals, mate. And when you look back on it now, what were the key parts of you being so successful and making the playoffs first time since 2003?
I just think everybody knew their role very well. The key performance indicators that Ivan had us sort of zoning in on, and a lot of those were defensively, particularly to keep sides trapped deep inside their half so they weren't doing attacking kicks at the end of sets. I think we had the ability, to score long tries. We were very good at coming out of our half. There were some really tough matches that we got away with. One in particular was the Roosters match. We went into Golden Point. I remember getting a high shot, and it was right in front of the post. And for that split second, I thought I'll just stay down, because it was just at the time where, if you stayed down and they looked at it, they'd blow the penalty. He must have felt my body go a little bit limp, where I just sort of let myself go. And I remember him grabbing me and getting right in my ear. He said, "Don't give me that shit. Don't do." I said, "Don't do that. Don't." It was just into me, and I felt like a dog, and I got straight up and I played the ball. And you quickly realise once you go into that deep water, where your body starts to ask questions of yourself. And we got away with that one, but there was definitely some really, really good victories we had, and it just continued to bring us closer and closer together. We went on lots of runs where we won a lot of games. We ended up losing against Parramatta in a semi-final at home.
Georgie, that was only the second home semi-final in the club's history. Do you remember the type of atmosphere?
Just incredible. There's stuff that puts just goosebumps on you. Just running out to an absolute roar. The drums, crowd, loud, the entire match is something special. And we'd, I guess, captured their hearts that year, and they supported us, and we were totally in control for the first 25 minutes of the first half. And we bombed a few opportunities, and they turned around and took the game. We played at majority of our games in cooler weather, and had to go back to Townsville as a result of that and play Cowboys. And it was like 35 degrees. They played us at 2 p.m. They put us in the black jerseys, and unfortunately, collectively as a team, we had no answer for it. And we'd beaten them comfortably. I think twice that year. We had their measure, but in those elements, they just their little men just picked us apart. So it was a disappointing end to that season, because I really felt like we could have done something.
Your career started in Townsville and it finished in Townsville. The question is, did you know that it was your last game going up into Townsville that time, or did you not?
I had secured a contract to go over to Huddersfield, and what was hard is the last time I walked off Mount Smart knowing I may never get to play there again. I remember that game in particular where I really took my time to sort of savour walking around the ground, and I think I lingered a little bit on the field before I went in the dressing room. My next chapter of rugby league wasn't as happy a one as when I was with the Warriors, and part of me wishes I could have stayed at the Warriors for another few seasons. Unfortunately, I couldn't give Ivan and the club the assurance that I was anything more than a year-to-year proposition. For year 2 at the Warriors, I sort of said, I went to Dad. I said, Dad, can I have one more? Can I have one more year? Just one more year? And he said, one more. That's it. No more. So I've been very open and honest with the Warriors, and I think they needed a little bit more security in their player retention. And unfortunately, I wasn't offered another contract beyond 2007, which still today hurts. I would have loved to stay there.
Now, I know that your dad was allowing you one more year at a time, and their business was there to run. All of you guys are running it, but would they come over and watch and enjoy you partaking in your dream again?
Dad was incredibly proud through that time, and I remember, he did get to come over and watch a game, and I was living with Simon Mannering at the time. I was like Simon's personal carer outside of rugby league. I'd cook and clean, and he was only a young fella at the time. I think he was 18, and he hadn't lived away from home too much. So I remember Dad came over and watched a game, and Simon that same weekend had invited some of his Nelson close schoolmates to come and watch a match as well. And Dad got to see some of the game, and I think we got the win as well. And he also got to partake in some of the celebrations afterwards. And I thought it being a traditional old Greek man, it might shock him, but he was pretty good about it in the end.
If you can sum up your time in the jumper and getting to play another 2 years, extending that dream when you thought it was over.
In my mind, I never played football to make a lot of money. I know it sounds silly in this day and age. I always thought in my back of my mind that I would make my money once I went home within my family business, and just to live out my dream and play at that level. That was my motivation, and to be able to get back and actually play to the level I knew I was capable of, in and around some of the greats of the game. And I put it all out there and made some brilliant friends. People today I can still call. You're in trouble. Ruben Wiki, he's always one phone call away to anybody. Yeah, so just an incredible time of life for me, mate. Honestly, I lived a dream, and it was a good time where I guess mobile phones hadn't taken over as much, and we certainly had our fair share of fun over there. Where I think if we're in this era, we might have found ourselves out of a job. Not bad fun, but just we got up to a little bit of mischief at different times, and we enjoyed each other's company. And it was just a brilliant time of life.
Gorgeous George, once a warrior, always a warrior, brother. You're one of the true good guys to wear the jumper, man. Thanks for your service, bro.
Thank you very much for having me on the show, bro.
And thank you for tuning in. I'm Monty, Betham. I'll see you next week for another episode of Once a Warrior.
Gatis, great footwork to that man, George Gatis. Here's Gatis out of empty half. George Gatis. Gatis for the line. They can't deny him. And to Gatis. Gatis for the line. I reckon he's played in the football. Gatis is away. Gatis has got support. George Gatis, he's Johnny on the spot. Came back to George Gatis. He gets the try.